That one's not hit back there in the distance.
Hello again to all my faithful YouTube followers, along with all of you new folks who I hope will soon become faithful YouTube followers for me after you watch this review on my new Redline Milsim N7 Gen 2 HPA system. I have to admit that I was a little bit leery going into this. I did not think I was going to like the idea of an HPA, and I've always associated HPAs with hoses and heavy tanks and backpacks, and this could be just nothing that could be further from the truth than that when it comes to this new Redline Milsim when you're using the Airstock II system on it. I'm going to be doing a really in-depth review of the whole system for you today. We're going to talk about how it goes in, we're going to talk about all the pieces, parts, and we're going to talk about whether or not it's worth it. How did it truly affect the range and accuracy of the gun? You're going to see some gameplay footage as we go through it, and all in all, hopefully this will become a very informative video for you on it. First thing I need to mention is that the Redline Milsim N7 Gen 2 HPA system, the Milsim variation of this is an all-mechanical HPA system. It does not require a battery. There's no place to plug a battery. It is designed so that you can use it in the pouring rain, any adverse conditions that a Milsim might put you in, it's still going to go bang. In fact, Ted at Leviathan Tactical told me that when he was first shown the system, the salesperson that showed it to him literally pulled a airsoft rifle out of a barrel of water that he had it submerged in, pulled it out and began firing with it, with the Milsim edition in it, and everything worked just fine. Another big plus for the Redline system is it has a lifetime warranty. Now, I don't know about you, but I have spent a small fortune in repairing guns and having parts break and having to fix them and all that kind of jazz. When was the last time you ever saw a lifetime warranty on anything airsoft related? That to me is a pretty darn big deal right there. Now, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this device, and we're going to start off by showing you what things look like for installation. In order to put the Redline Milsim in, you're going to have to sacrifice a gearbox. Now, you can use the gearbox that came with the gun, or you can get a new one or a junk one off of something else. For this one, Adrian at Leviathan Tactical had a spare gearbox he used so that we would not have to sacrifice all the work put into my other gearbox, and he cut it out, allowing the Redline Milsim system to go in. The hose from the HPA engine goes through a hole in the back of the upper and connects to the Airstock II system that replaces your old buffer tube in stock. Now, as I mentioned before, Adrian was kind enough to give me a spare gearbox that he had, a gearbox shell that he had in order to do this, but that ended up leaving a hole that you can see right there on my Avalon where the right hand safety was. He's going to try and get that fixed if he can get the safety mechanism to work in it, and if not, then I may end up going and buying a regular Avalon gearbox in order to get that replaced so that it all looks good and does right.
Got him.
The next part of the system, and the part of the system that I think makes this whole thing amazing, is the Redline Airstock II system. Now, as I said before, I've always steered clear of the HPA because I did not want to be hindered with a hose that would restrict my movement going from left to right for my rifle stock, and I did not want to deal with carrying a tank on my back. The Redline Airstock II system eliminates all that, giving you one nice self-contained system in your rifle. Now, you can ignore the battery that you see in the photo here because that battery is there just to power my scope cam that I use for my airsoft videos. Your stock tank which is a 13 cubic inch tank, screws into the back of your Redline Airstock II system. Now I want to point out that there's no gauge on the Airstock system to help you to determine how much air pressure you're shooting with. From what I understand, this is kind of unique in the HPA system, and I can kind of understand why Redline didn't use it, because it's something extra, an extra weight that has no real value there. To adjust the pressure that's being output from your system, meaning how many joules you get out of each BB, all you have to do is take and turn this little Allen's wrench or Allen's bolt here. You go righty-tighty for less air, lefty-loosey for more air, depending on whether you want less joules or more joules in the final output of the BBs coming out of the tank. There's also a location right here for the Milsim zip tie. If you've ever done a real Milsim, you know that once you've chronoed, they take and put a zip tie through the HPA adjustments area that prevents you from getting an Allen wrench in there to adjust it. That helps to deter people from cheating and cranking up the joules on their rifle once they get done chronoing. Now you're going to see you've got some really solid brace bars located right here that go from the rifle main body back to the butt pad. These brace bars do two things for you. One, they support the tank, and the other, as I said, they support the butt pad. I wasn't real sure that I was going to like the feel of that, but you know, when you're out there running and gunning and shooting people, you don't even notice any difference in how it feels. The Airstock II system also comes with two extremely solid sling mounts, one on each side. Really, there's actually two on the left-hand side. All said and done, for me, this is what makes the entire system worthwhile. If it wasn't for this, I would not have even considered going this direction. The next part of the system is the 13 cubic inch tank, which for me is the greatest advantage to this whole system, being able to carry your tank on your gun and have it all be in one small self-contained system. The tank is rated for 3,000 pounds per square inch pressure, and you can see right here there's a pressure gauge that is on the tank, allowing you to keep track of how much pressure you have left in it. I did a lot of research on the internet before purchasing this system to try and find out how many shots I could expect out of a single tank of air, and sadly I could not find that information anywhere. My own tests have shown that a single tank is good for somewhere between 800 and 900 BBs, and that was being fired at 1.5 joules, shooting 0.32 gram BBs out of it. That 800 and 900 shots equates to somewhere between 6 and 7 mid-cap magazines, which is going to be enough for any of your weekend pickup games. And I would think that 2 of the tanks would be more than enough to get you through a solid session at any of the major Milsim events we have. The tank easily screws on and off for quick field changes, and Ted at Leviathan Tactical in Pensacola, Florida found that a pop flare pouch is a perfect fit for carrying a spare tank with you, whether on your belt like I have it or maybe on a plate carrier chest rig. You can also purchase a scuba adapter that will mount onto the quick fill ports that's on the side of the tank. That way, if you're playing at a field that does not have a field station, you can still fill it on the go. And if you're really desperate, you can get a hand pump like this one off Amazon, but from what I understand, it takes about 400 pumps in order to get it filled. Best bet, go to a field that has a true fill station, and you can fill it literally in a couple of seconds. Next, I want to look at the idea of joule creep with HPA. I chronoed 2 BBs, a 0.32 gram BBs, which shot at about 1.45 joules, and some 0.4 BBs given to me by Ted at Leviathan, and those shot about 1.53 joules. Joule creep is a real thing. But How does it equate to effective range? The only way to find out the answer to that question is to set up a range. My target is a 6 foot tall, 1.5 foot wide sign. Basically, it's me. I've tested both 0.32 gram BBs and 0.4 gram BBs, and here are the following results.
to 200 feet. Look left. Look left. Fall. There you got one. Hopping now. 0.4 grams, 150 feet.
As we transition to the 0.4 gram BBs, you're going to find that not only the accuracy but also the range increases, and I figure I get about 40 more feet out of the 0.4 gram BBs. Now, is that a lot? Yes. Is it enough to justify the price of the 0.4 gram BBs? I guess that depends on how much money you have. For me, if I'm playing someplace like Evo, where I'm shooting through a lot of brush and I'm not really having a lot of long-range targets, I don't think I can justify it. But if I'm doing a milsim or something where I'm going to have a lot of long-range targets, it might well be something worth looking at. While the results of my 200-foot test were not particularly spectacular, I was surprised to find that the 225-foot test actually outdid the 200-foot test. And now we switch to the final test, 225 feet, which is a pretty darn good range for a rifleman class shooting at 1.5 joules. I guess it's time to get down to the final stage of good versus bad on this. On the good side, you definitely are going to get some increased range off of the HPA system, particularly if you can afford the BBs. Another huge plus for me is that it feeds every time. My old Avalon had pretty much died because it just couldn't feed, and there's nothing that the shop was able to do to get it to work right, so we had to come up with another solution. I have yet to have a misfire shooting with the HPA system. Another big plus is it's very consistent. You saw on the chrono that the shots were all shooting at almost the same exact joule rating, and that of course is going to lead to having very consistent shots with very few flyers out there. If you are a hardcore milsimmer, this is not something you have to worry about because it is waterproof. For lack of better terms, rain is not going to hurt it. There is nothing electrical in this gun to get hurt from rain. As I told you before, Ted watched it be pulled out of a barrel of water and fired. The system is also a lot lighter weight than I thought it was going to be. I don't think it's going to be any heavier than my previous system where I was running the full gearbox, stock, and battery in it. I believe that all balanced out pretty well. In fact, it might even be a little bit lighter. It is also a little bit quieter than the AEG is because you don't have that wham of the engine spinning up every time. Another big plus for me is you don't have the scope cam shake, because every time I fired my AEG, the spinning of the motor would cause vibration that would mess up with my camera. And you also, of course, never have to charge a battery. That's a big plus. And by the way, did I mention that it has a lifetime warranty? Lifetime warranty is something that's really hard to find in this kind of market. On the negative side, you need a source to fill your tanks. Only one of the fields that I play at locally does not have that option, but that is something to keep in mind. Another negative was that I found that there's a very slow leak of about 100 pounds per square inch per hour that took place when I left the tank screwed in. Now, for most people, that is not going to be an issue. The only time I can see it being an issue at all would be if you're doing a 40-hour MSW type event, and even then, just carrying 1 or 2 spare tanks is going to be plenty. I don't think I have ever fired more than 600 or 700 BBs at an MSW event. So you're going to have, I think 2 tanks would be more than enough to get you through one of those. That slow leak system may be unique to my rig. I can't really speak for others. All I know is I've checked it on mine, and that's taking place there. Something else I don't like about the Milsim version is there's a double pop on the trigger. You get the pop when you pull the trigger, and you get another pop when you release the trigger. As a result, this is not going to be a really easily suppressed system. I've seen a lot of HPAs that you can suppress to be just mouse fart quiet, for lack of better terms, and I think that the bigger noise on this one comes when you release the trigger, and that one I don't think is going to be as suppressed well by putting a suppressor on it. Another negative is that the Milsim version of the Redline is a semi-only system. You can only fire 1 shot at a time. There's no full auto option. That's not really a big deal, because it is standard for rifleman class at pretty much every field you go to and pretty much every Milsim you go to. If you really feel it is important to you to get the full auto, then Redline does make another version of this that is electronic, and it does allow the full auto option. In the end, I really do believe that the good outweighs the bad. If you're interested, please go by Leviathan Tactical and talk to Ted or Adrian and Tyler, if you're in the greater Pensacola area anyhow, and they will tell you what you need to do to get your rifle converted. If you're someplace else, please try your local shops first before farming it out to some of the big places. I am a hardcore believer that we have to keep our local shops in business, particularly during this pandemic time. They need all the support we can get. That's pretty much it. If you like the video, please let me know. Give me a comment. Tell me your thoughts on it. I look forward to hearing from you. Share it with your friends. And above all, please do subscribe so you can see more awesome stuff coming out of Black Sheep Airsoft. Y'all have a great day.